Hello and welcome to What the Tech from Boast AI, where we talk with some of the brilliant minds behind new and exciting tech initiatives to learn what it takes to tackle technological uncertainty and eventually change the world. Today, I am thrilled to welcome seasoned product executive and award-winning founder of Lodestone, Dennis Chow. At Lodestone, Dennis and his team have built a product management software platform that helps busy product teams move faster and get more of their product work done. Ultimately, Lodestone helps teams drive towards comprehensive discovery and successful delivery of the right thing for the right customers at the right time. Recently, Lodestone's bona fides were on display when they took home the Judge's Choice Award at the 2024 CodeLaunch Accelerator event in Toronto, where our team was absolutely pumped to cheer on Dennis from the front row. But this is hardly Dennis's first go-round as an entrepreneur or lending support to the Canadian tech ecosystem. He's currently on his 5th year as a volunteer advisor for the Mars Discovery District out of Toronto and has played a part in numerous successful startups over the course of his career to date. Can't wait to pick Dennis's brain on his path into entrepreneurship, his philosophy as a product developer and creator, and what's in store for 2025. Without further ado, welcome to the show, Dennis.
Thanks so much, Paul. I'm ready to dive in.
I love it. As I mentioned at the beginning, we here at Boast are big fans of yours. I know we were rooting you on at CodeLaunch, but that was hardly your first go-around in the entrepreneur or tech space. So I'd love to hear from you. How did you get started in the game?
Oh gosh. So we're at about 20 years now, and it's always been in product management for me. I think like anybody who's been in this space for a while, you started off doing it without even really knowing it was and what it was going to be, right? So my foray, graduating from University of Toronto, working at Rogers within their workforce operations team at the time, and then naturally converting to full-time hours. I had a fantastic manager. And yeah, there's a conversation he has with me shortly after graduation. He's like, "Hey, what do you want to do?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What do I want to do? I want to work for you. I want to come in and I just want to grind it out here." He's like, "Hey, listen, don't take this wrong, but you may be destined for things better than workforce management. So Rogers is a fantastic, organization, very large. Odds are if you have an interest in something, we're going to be able to find something for you internally." So he's like, "Take some time, think about that and get back to me." So I'm left, to my own devices and I'm like, gosh, this is crazy. I attend one of our company town halls, and okay, I'm going to date myself with this next thing here. I attend one of our town halls and our chief marketing officer gets up and he previews the latest BlackBerry commercials. And I say to myself, that's it. That's where I want to be, marketing. Oh my gosh. And so I go back to my manager and I tell him, he's like, "Fantastic. I just collaborated on a project with a product manager who's in the marketing org. I'm going to connect the two of you. I understand he's looking for someone to help him out." At that time in the early 2000s, Rogers, really their product management sort of practice being in the marketing department, really reflecting more classical, like consumer packaged goods flavor of product management, where heavy focus on pricing and packaging and really looking at sort of, the channels in which you're promoting the offerings. And so that's how I fell into it. But, Paul, life is just a connection of serendipitous events, and I'm no different, right? I managed to parlay my experiences working in the wireless space naturally into SaaS. And the only reason why I did that was because I was able to convince folks that, hey, we're talking about things like monthly recurring revenue. We're focused on things like churn and retention and upsell and cross-sell. These are all things that translate naturally into SaaS. And so that's how I managed to make that transition from telco at companies like Rogers and TELUS through into SaaS, right? And sort of this idea of Malcolm Gladwell and 10,000 hours, equating that into 5 years. You spend 2,000 hours a year, 40-hour work weeks, 50 weeks a year. And so that's also in the back of my mind, just trying to figure out how to naturally carve out this narrative. And I would tell you, the first 5 years, what it took to be a decent product manager. And the next 5 years, how do you lead product managers and product teams effectively? And then, sort of years 11 through 15, how do you run a product function while sitting on an executive team at an organization, right? So there's that duality where you're responsible for the function. You've got to grow and scale, not just the team, but the processes. But you've got this added dynamic of now you've work alongside your counterparts in sales, in marketing, customer success. How do you navigate the push-pull dynamic there, right? And then we then enter into the pandemic, and, sort of that's a, opportunity for me to take a step back and reflect on things. Lodestone was born shortly after the pandemic, and it's this idea of, how do we make greater impact? How do we help product teams out there? And just they're inundated with data, with work. There's never enough time. How do we help them become more effective?
That is the perfect answer. First off, I'm going to call back to one thing that you had mentioned that my marketing heart was singing when I heard it, because you never hear someone go, oh, I want to get into marketing. I remember these BlackBerry commercials we're talking about too. Recency bias, because I just watched the BlackBerry movie too with Lazarus and all of that, and we partnered with the Institute. So it's a really interesting story, but you rarely hear that from people who are deep into product development or who that's where they might have come from. But I love too that you referenced Malcolm Gladwell of it all, the hours spent, the years that you put into it, and kind of just like what goes into those first 5 years. Then once you have that in place, bring it, elevate up, get to that next growth phase. Very similar to the startup space in a lot of capacity. I think especially in the US, actually. I know we're talking Canadian here, but I'm thinking about the tax brackets too. After that 5-year point that you just enter a completely different opportunity when it comes to all of that. So applying that to your own personal development, which again is at the heart of what Malcolm Gladwell is talking about, love to see it in action, and also love that you are a walking, talking use case of that is a successful model in action. So that is so cool. And last point I want to tie back to too was how you really saw the seamless transition going from telco into SaaS. And now we're going into even more things. I don't even want to mention the AI of it all and ML and everything like that. But I think that there is a seamless transition that everyone in the tech space can view as an opportunity. There's a lot of fear when that change happens, but you can transfer a lot of those skills because you're still ultimately problem solving at the end of the day. And I think that's a lot of what you guys are trying to get done at Lodestone. So we talked about the nexus of how that all got going. Pandemic happened. I know we all made significant life changes and reflected a little bit at that stage, but let's talk about Lodestone a little more and maybe what sets you guys apart from others in your space and maybe define that space for me a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So at its core, Lodestone is focused, I think conveniently we talk about product teams, right? So product managers, their leaders. You can also extend this to early stage startup founders. In larger organizations, you can extend this beyond that as well. But really the common denominator here is folks who are in a situation where you have numerous opportunities in front of you and you have limited resources to deploy against those opportunities, and you're trying to figure out where to place those bets, right? So clearly reflections of my own career history and the experiences I've come from, I have lived that as a product manager, as a product leader, and now as a founder. These are the things that I'm going through, but I can easily see applications of that sort of beyond, right? Now, I mean, in the interest of good product management practices, pick your targets and remain focused on those. This is where we've chosen to focus. But really, it's this idea of how do we help you find your way? How do we help you really understand what the right things to do are? And it's not meant to be prescriptive in any way, shape, or form. Really, it's a series of practices that really call out and remind you on a regular basis, what are you trying to achieve here? What's your ultimate objective? And so, we always want to trace back every single little minute initiative or project or opportunity. We want to be able to connect that back to the larger goals of the organization, right? We've got this idea of sort of product people, early stage founders. You're going to do the work. You're going to ingest all of these opportunities. You're going to see all the data points, but you want to tie that back to the bigger picture and the work that you're going to choose to do, initiatives you choose to prioritize, and then the plans that you subsequently present. People should be receiving those plans through your presentations and be able to walk away to say, you know what? I actually know what we're working on. And I know that how those things contribute to the bigger picture. And, sort of your question there, Paul, around sort of how do we set ourselves apart? I think it's that latter piece, being able to tell that story. And so, sort of one of the other key hallmarks that we've got in the Lodestone platform is you're going to do the work. You're going to do the work in this platform, in this product management solution set, whether you choose Lodestone, whether you choose another product management platform. What's unique about Lodestone is we're always going to give you the opportunity to export that work into a slide deck because, we know, right? Whether you're a product manager, whether you're a VP of product, whether you're a founder, CEO, you have a group of stakeholders you need to articulate plans to, right? That things are never done, sort of in isolation. Nobody in the history of tech has ever said, oh, I'm going to do this and then just go and do it, right? Look, we're going to help you get through this work. We're going to help you get some more of this done faster because we know too many things to do, not enough time in the day to do it. We want to give you the ability to have a more fulsome picture of the options in front of you. We want that. But once you do make your decisions, we want to lay that out in a nice, compelling, sequential series of slides for you to be really effective at telling that story. Because ultimately, you make the plans, then you got to share the plans, and then you got to get buy-in to those plans.
Dennis, there is so much simpatico from what you just said and what your mission is at Lodestone with what we're trying to do here at Boast. I have to make that connection immediately out the gate because I think what you were really alluding to throughout all of that was the clarity that you help give teams and that you help deliver to those stakeholders. It's about keeping track of everything, making sure that you're not leaving processes off the table and making sure that, like you said, it always ties back to your main goal and to your main mission. And there may be pivots. There's going to be pivots, but you help elevate the opportunities with that clarity of vision. And I think you hear a lot of visibility, you hear a lot of transparency, you hear a lot of that, but I think it's ultimately clarity at the end of the day. And to that point, at Boast, it's literally what we're trying to do as well. For us, it's the CRA, it's the IRS, it's the people who are going to be vetting that claim. They want more data today to understand how you got to that point to qualify your claim, but also they're humans. They want to hear a story. They want to know what is the unique innovation here. It is subjective, unfortunately. There are objective things that are net new that are going to credit in your corner, but you need to make sure that you're telling a compelling story at the end of the day. And you need tools to help you do that. And you need that perspective and that clarity. That's what I'm saying. So much simpatico because Lodestone delivers that to a different set of stakeholders, but also a complementary set of stakeholders too. Because again, you have to be doing that product development. You have to be doing that R&D to build a compelling product at the end of the day, but also to capture those tax credits. So again, I'm glad to hear that we at least are presenting two tools that'll be very valuable to product developers in the market today. Now, I did also want to talk about the opportunities of it all. And now, something I know we have discussed in the past, just when we one-on-one chatted, was about going back again into your entree into the entrepreneurship space and maybe the ecosystem of partners and just opportunities you were given to grow. Again, it started at Rogers, it sounds like. It sounds like you had great leadership who told you, hey, you might not want to do workforce management your whole life. This seems fun today, but 5 years from now, you're going to be very done with this. Tell me a little bit about some of the support you've received, I guess, in the Canadian tech ecosystem, or even just generally to have the confidence and the ability to build such an awesome tool like Lodestone.
Oh gosh, that's such a great question, Paul. I think about partnerships. I think about the tech community at large. Really, the biggest piece I would share is there is a transactional to it. It's not just you getting, you've got to give. I think back to my own experiences, the years that I've spent in my career. Absolutely. There's a period of time where you're still figuring it out. You're still trying to learn, but there is that natural growth trajectory and you accrue enough experiences. This might be the nerdy video game, Dennis, coming out, right? But hey, successes or failures, at the end of the day, they're all experience points helping you level up, right? And that's what it is. And it's how do you take those failures? How do you take those missed turns, those wrong turns? And how do you learn from them? And so you accrue enough of those types of experiences over the course of your career, you're going to get to a point where you're naturally going to start talking with people who are beyond. People come and go, people switch, people take new jobs all the time. They move into different companies. It's those relationships that last. And then sort of, those really strong ones, the efforts required, the efforts what people are willing to make to maintain those relationships. So then you start sharing. And then it's this idea of work. Your career becomes more than just the job you have at the company you're in. And that's exactly what happened. That's how my own experiences played out. It got to a point where I started meeting with people for lunch or for dinner, or for a drink after work. And it was just sharing those experiences. And then that was a snowball effect where it's like, hey, listen, you've got some really interesting experiences that my team is going through right now. Would you be interested in sort of coming in like one afternoon and just, if we had like a learning session, we could chat with you. We could just learn from you. I said yes to those opportunities. I was absolutely willing to share that. That started to evolve into, hey, we really like the way you run your program, your processes at your company. Is there any way you could just give us like an overview of that and say, hey, what are the practices? What are the things you went through to get to this level of cadence and rhythm and output? Right. And so I started sharing that with product teams at other companies, and sort of you start to see that snowball effect, right? Eventually you just get into more and more of that. I think how this supported Lodestone coming to life and gaining traction, you've just got this base of colleagues, of friends, of supporters, people who are genuinely interested in seeing you succeed in whatever it is you're choosing to do. There's that, but then intersection of that plus you bringing to market a set of tools that they could actually use to help with their day to day. And then it's like, you're off to the races, right? And sort of, we're just sort of in that sweet spot. And, sort of certain, sort of advisors of me personally would say, Dennis, you're not doing enough. You need to capitalize on that more. But, we're trying to just tackle and embrace every opportunity to continue sort of living in that magic intersection.
I love it. Dennis, I think too, some people might get the wrong impression when they hear transactional. I think it's incredibly valuable that you do need to find partners who you get that give and take from. It's not just taking. Transaction means you guys are getting from each other. So you're giving and then you're getting in return. And that's community. Honestly, I've seen that firsthand. I really related to a lot of actually what you said. I think, as you know, I'm one of the few Americans here on the Boast Canada team. I'm up in Toronto all the time, but it's all about, I met people in the marketing field. They got me into a space that worked best for me. My background was in journalism. I'm able to hop on this podcast and talk to really cool innovators, and I'm learning more about the tech ecosystem. And now I'm learning more about what my interests are in the space. And I'm connecting with other marketers in the tech space. And it's something I've seen unique too. I'm not poo-pooing the US, but I've seen it uniquely up in Canada. Again, in Toronto and in BC, where we do most of our work at Boast, we obviously do the whole country, but I have talked to so many people in those communities, and they really want to lift each other up. And it's give and take too. You got to bring something to the table. It's not like they're not going to help you, but you're going to get more the more you give. And I think that's a great message. Now, to wrap things up, this kind of $1 million question here, and I know you alluded to it in giving some of your sage wisdom about how you got into the space, but what is maybe a nugget of wisdom you'd like to share with any entrepreneurs looking to start a business in today's market?
Oh, the biggest takeaway or the biggest advice or insight that I've got to offer right now is get uncomfortable. And you have to be okay. You have to start getting more comfortable being comfortable, right? I think there's a large portion of entrepreneurs out there who perhaps started their career in more traditional corporate organizations and sort of team structures. We have a large tranche of entrepreneurs who were department division leaders in larger organizations who have run and managed teams. And as a result of that, there's the inherent coaching that you're giving to your team members in your one-on-ones. That moment you cross that threshold and move from being an employee at a company to a founder, an entrepreneur doing your own thing, it's not like you got to completely throw away all the lessons that you've learned and the lessons that you were teaching in those larger environments. I'd almost flip it on its head to say, hey, now's the time to put that stuff into action, right? So how do you turn this from just being lip service to actually walking the walk? And so this idea, I recall vividly in companies previous as a VP of product coaching junior product managers. It's like, oh, well, Dennis, I don't really know how to do the user journey mapping. I'm not really comfortable. Guess what? Try it. Don't read it. Don't, sort of spend hours and weeks on end trying to perfect the process. Do it, right? That's the best way you're going to learn. It's uncomfortable as heck, but you've got to be okay with that. And sort of this idea of getting out of your comfort zone is where you're going to get in your growth zone. I'm living that on a daily basis right now. And it's weird. It's like my clothes don't fit nicely. That's what it's akin to, right? You've got that itchy wool tag in the back and you're always wanting to scratch it. That's exactly what it feels like. But it's this idea of recognizing and acknowledging this is my growth, right? And it's such an irony right? Because you may have chosen to become an entrepreneur due to an aspect for which you had specialized. You were really, really good at. In my case, sort of product, right? Product management. It's something I spent, my whole career in. I felt like I was really good at it. So that's why we started this company. You quickly realize to really grow, to succeed well in this endeavor, you have to focus on the things so it's, hey, take the thing that you were good at, use that as the impetus to start something and quickly move into a whole bunch of things that you're not good at. And that's how you're going to grow. That's how you're going to help sort of this business succeed.
That is amazing. Two title of episodes came through from what you were saying. First was going to be turn lip service into actually walking the walk. It's building your skill set. I think that's amazing. And again, get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's the only way you're going to get the push to actually build new things, build successful things. Never settle. So I think that's fantastic. Dennis, I cannot thank you enough for joining us.
This has been a fantastic conversation.
Awesome.